What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another FPL Transfer Talks video on the channel. And in today's one, we are going to be discussing all things to do with Game Week 4. And if you guys could smash a like on the video, that would be absolutely fantastic. But with that being said, I want to start off by talking about why you should be looking to avoid Alexander Isak. And to be honest with you guys, I can't even believe my eyes right now, because at the time of recording, a staggering 444,000 FPL managers have already bought in Alexander Isak, and this is absolute madness. This is absurd. I don't even know what to say, guys. This is just absolutely ridiculous, man, because we're talking about a player, right, that's had no pre-season for Newcastle, no pre-season for Liverpool, no minutes in the Premier League. Even on the international break for Sweden, he's got 0 minutes in their first game in the World Cup qualifiers against Slovenia. He has played no football whatsoever. I don't understand why people all of a sudden think that, oh, because he just moved to Liverpool, he's going to start in the first game against Burnley, or he's going to start against Everton. Guys, wake up and get back to reality. Alexander Isak is not going to start against Burnley. He's not going to start against Everton. This is a man that's played no football whatsoever. I don't understand why so many people are lacking this composure and already bringing in Alexander Isak. It makes no sense. There is no logical reason that points towards Alexander Isak getting a start in Game Week 4 against Burnley, getting a start in Game Week 5 against Everton. There is no logical reason. Unless Ekitike gets injured, Isak will not start. We're looking at 10 or 15 minute cameos off the bench at best, and in my opinion, why would you want to bring in a player that's only going to get 10 or 15 minutes off the bench? Logically, you're not putting yourself in the best possible position to get FPL points, because he's not going to get enough minutes. Simple as that, guys. I don't understand. A lot of FPL managers right now are acting like little kids in a new toy store. They see a shiny new toy and they don't know how to react. They don't know how to act, right? There is no composure there. I think people need to take a deep breath and, as I said, get back to reality, because Alexander Isak, guys, is going to be nothing more than a bench player for the next few game weeks. It's as simple as that, right? Also, you've got to look at the man in his position, right? How have they started in the Premier League so far? Look at Ekitike. He's had a brilliant start to the Premier League for Liverpool, playing in the position that Alexander Isak is looking to play in. 2 goals and 1 assist in the opening 3 games already. Looked really, really good on the eye and has actually been one of Liverpool's best attackers so far. What on God's green earth makes you think that Arne Slot is going to bench Ekitike, who's had a good start to the Premier League, for Alexander Isak, who's played no football whatsoever? It doesn't make sense, guys. So for me, I don't even know how on earth 444,000 FPL managers have already brought this man in. But for me, if you haven't already made that move, I would strongly be advising you to avoid him. Ekitike has done a brilliant job so far for Liverpool. He will start, right? I honestly believe Ekitike starts against Burnley, starts against Everton, and to be honest with you, there's even a possibility he starts against Palace away from home, but I'd say I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure about that, because by then I would have expected Isak to got some minutes off the bench, and then maybe eventually Isak starts in Game Week 6 or Game Week 7. But definitely, when you're looking at sort of Liverpool's next 2 games, right, they look like tasty fixtures. Burnley away, Everton at home. Isak ain't starting. He ain't starting those games, guys. So I don't know why so many people are already shaking their bum for Alexander Isak. But please, if you've not made that move already, don't do it. For me, it's an easy avoid, and that's just my opinion, man. I'm gonna leave it at that. Alright, guys, so let's have a look at some Cunha and Sarr replacements. As you guys know, both Cunha and Sarr did pick up injuries in Game Week 3. However, I will say, in terms of Cunha, the latest reports that are coming out is that sort of his injury isn't as bad as it first looked. So there is even potential for Cunha to possibly even make the bench for Game Week 4 against Man City away, and potentially be back ready for Game Week 5. That is what the latest reports are sort of alluding to at the moment. Now, first things first, of course, let's speak about GAKPO, because this is probably my favorite sort of Cunha and Sarr replacement, man, coming in at the price of 7.7 million. The next 2 games, Burnley away from home, Everton at home. It's just absolutely fantastic. And even after that is Crystal Palace away. And at the moment, Palace do have a few injuries like Adam Wharton and Sarr. So they're going to be without 2 key players there, which is obviously going to give Liverpool a boost and increase their chances of scoring more goals and winning that game. But for me, it's just simply a fixtures play with GAKPO, and also Liverpool being one of the best attacking teams in the league at the moment. You know, GAKPO also has already scored 1 goal and got 2 assists so far in the Premier League. So he's had a good start to FPL this season. But also what I do like about GAKPO, right, right, is if you don't have Mohamed Salah in your FPL team, right, for game week 5, when you look at captaincy, the options right now aren't too great. I think Salah is definitely the standout captain option in game week 5, as he's got a game against Everton at home. Obviously, Haaland's playing against Arsenal away, which isn't ideal. Obviously, you know, players like Ollie Watkins are not in form at the moment. Aston Villa haven't even scored a Premier League goal, so you might not really want to captain Ollie Watkins away to Sunderland. You do, of course, have Chris Wood. Nottingham Forest have a game against Burnley away from home. I think it's a good fixture for Chris Wood, but I wouldn't say he's captain material, given the fact that his form at the moment isn't the best, and Nottingham Forest look really poor at home against West Ham in their last Premier League game. So in terms of captaincy, I just think a Liverpool player definitely is the standout. So if you've got someone like Ekitike, if you've got someone like GAKPO, right, and you've obviously not got Mohamed Salah, they're probably your next best picks for captaincy in game week 5, which is also a reason why I'm a big fan of picking someone like Cody Gakpo as a replacement for someone like Matheus Cunha or Ismaila Sarr, because not only does Gakpo have brilliant fixtures in game week 4 and game week 5, but as I said, in game week 5, he is definitely one of the best captain options, in my opinion, if you don't have Mohamed Salah. So yeah, that's why I really do like Cody Gakpo. Definitely someone to consider, in my opinion. And then we also do have Bryan Mbeumo coming in at the price of 8.1 million. I like him as a pick a lot. I really do. I know some people might think Manchester United have been really poor. I think you might look at the next 2 games and think, oh, I don't really want to go there. It's Man City away, it's Chelsea at home. But honestly, I think the Man City defense is there to be got at, guys. I don't think we should be afraid of our attackers playing against this Man City team, because they are a team that can be caught out. They are a team that leave gaps in behind. They are a team, right, that struggle on the transition defensively. And as I said, I don't think we should be scared when our attackers play against that Man City team, because they can certainly provide FPL points. And listen, for me, Bryan Mbeumo has actually been a really good, he's looked like a bright and good FPL pick. And honestly, when I watch Manchester United play, it's always Bryan Mbeumo, it's always Matheus Cunha as the 2 players that are getting into the best goal scoring positions. And to be honest with you, Bryan Mbeumo, he's just so involved in the attacking final third for Manchester United. Like, when you look at the game against Burnley, right, he only walked away with 1 goal from that game, but honestly, he could have at least had 2 goals and 2 assists in that game. He created so many chances, he got into so many good goal scoring positions where he was getting shots off, and was, as I said, quite unlucky not to walk away with more than 1 FPL return from the Burnley game. In the game against Arsenal, for example, we saw him get into some good goal scoring opportunities as well. Like, he is just so involved for Manchester United in the attacking final third, and that's why I really do like Bryan Mbeumo as a pick. And also, something I want to show you guys that I've actually seen, right, is when you look at the non-penalty expected goal involvement so far this season, Bryan Mbeumo has actually racked up the 2nd highest non-penalty expected goal involvement. Only Erling Haaland has got a higher amount, and as you guys can see, Erling Haaland has racked up 4.16 non-penalty expected goal involvement, and Bryan Mbeumo is in that 2nd place, racking up 2.11 non-penalty expected goal involvement, which is really interesting. And I just think it highlights how involved Bryan Mbeumo is. And as I said, if someone is going to score a goal for Manchester United at the moment, in open play, it looks like, you know, either Bryan Mbeumo or Matheus Cunha. That is my personal opinion. And of course, Matheus Cunha could be injured, which is why I do think Bryan Mbeumo could be a really good replacement for Matheus Cunha. That is my personal opinion. And then we also do have Anton Semenyo, and he definitely is one of my favorite options to go for. Coming in at the price of 7.4 million. He's already got 2 goals and 1 assist so far this season, and his underlying data is really good as well. 0.65 expected goal involvement per 90, which is solid. But for me, I just think Anton Semenyo is just everything you want in an FPL asset. We know he's going to start. We know he's going to play the whole game. We know he's going to get 90 minutes. And he's actually playing in a good attacking team. Bournemouth so far this season has started off strong. And when I watch them play, they're a team that does create a lot of goal scoring opportunities. And Anton Semenyo is always involved, you know, whether it's getting it on the end of a cross or whether it's creating the chance himself. But Semenyo himself is just so involved in that Bournemouth attack. And I just think if you go for someone like Semenyo now, you just simply leave him in your team, right? Unless he gets injured, there is no reason to sort of take out Semenyo, because he can play in any fixture. He can return in any fixture. And that is what I just love about this player as an FPL asset, man. And I think, as I said, the long-term fixtures are pretty decent. You know, the entry point is Brighton at home, which is nice. Then after that is Newcastle at home. Then Leeds away, Fulham at home, Palace away, and then Forest at home, and then City away and Villa away. But I think these 2 away games are actually not too bad. And I think Iriola is just such a good manager, and tactically he will set up in a way that helps Bournemouth, you know, potentially get a result from this game. But not only that, but just helps Bournemouth potentially even score goals in this game, right? And that's all we really care about with Semenyo. Yes, they could lose the game 3-2 or 4-2 like they did against Liverpool, but they'll certainly create enough chances in these tougher games against Man City away and Villa away, for example, where Semenyo can actually return FPL points. And that's what I just love about him. And then even after these two difficult games, we've then got a nice sort of 3-game fixture run against West Ham, Sunderland and Everton, for example. So I just think Anton Semenyo, man, if you go for him now, he is just a long-term set and forget pick, and that is why I love him as a pick. So yeah, man, Anton Semenyo, if you haven't got him already, I mean, he's already gone up in price so much, costing 7.4 million now. So yeah, if you haven't got him already and you need a Cunha replacement, he is definitely someone to consider, man. I really like him as an option. And then we also do have Iliman Ndiaye and Jack Grealish. The two Everton boys have started off the season really well, especially Jack Grealish, man. He's played a game less than Iliman Ndiaye, but you know, he's already picked up 4 assists, and you've got Iliman Ndiaye, he's got 2 goals so far. I think in terms of who do you go for between the two players, I would probably lean more towards Iliman Ndiaye, and that's because he is on penalties, so I think it gives him a boost. But I must say, man, I just think overall the Everton attack right now is actually looking quite good, especially with that man, Jack Grealish in the team. I mean, of course, Ndiaye as well, he himself is a fantastic footballer, like on the eye, right? Both fantastic players, but I think Jack Grealish has added something that Everton don't have, and sort of that creativity, that intelligence, that in-game IQ, right? Jack Grealish has that, and I think it's definitely helping, you know, players like Dewsbury, who is helping players like Iliman Ndiaye. And you know, since Jack Grealish has come into the side, we've seen Iliman Ndiaye score 2 goals in 2 games, right? So I just think, right, both players are fantastic. If I was to pick one, I think I would lean more towards Iliman Ndiaye because he is on penalties, and that's the only that is generally the only reason why. I think both from open play, both offer good overall goal involvement. I think Jack Grealish's goal involvement is more tailored towards assists. However, Iliman Ndiaye's goal involvement is more tailored towards goals, right? And that's also why I slightly prefer Iliman Ndiaye, but nonetheless, both are fantastic options. What I like about this Everton attack is sort of how freely they're playing. The rotations, the interchange they've got going on is really good. Like, when you look at the team sheet, Ndiaye starts off as like a right winger, but when you watch them play, he will drift inside, right? Sometimes he will appear on the left, sometimes he will appear in the center of the pitch, in and around the penalty box, and then sometimes he'll appear sort of on the back post on the right hand side, and that's how he's got his last couple of goals. So I just like the Everton attack right now at the moment, and I think their fixtures are also pretty decent. Game week 4, they've got Aston Villa at home, which is actually really good, because Aston Villa, of course, have started the season off really poorly. Now we also do have Anthony Elanga, and I'm a little bit 50-50 on this player, man. I don't know if he is going to be the best pick to go for anymore. I mean, we saw him get benched in the last game against Leeds, but for me, what is quite concerning is now the fact that Newcastle have added a lot of strength and depth in their attack, right? So they've signed 2 new number 9s. They've signed Johan Wissa, they've signed Walter Molde. Probably butchered that name, so my apologies, but they've signed 2 number 9s, which now means Gordon's going to go over to the left and start, so that leaves Anthony Elanga competing with players like Jacob Murphy and Harvey Barnes. And for me, I just think when you add Champions League, when you throw in Champions League into the mix now, with Newcastle playing on, you know, Tuesday, Saturday or Wednesday, Saturday, it just smells like less minutes. It smells like rotation for Anthony Elanga, right? I don't think now we can rely on him to start week in, week out and get good minutes in the Premier League. As I said, with the amount of strength and depth Newcastle have in their attacking positions, and with Champions League now coming into play, which is why I think even though Newcastle do have fantastic fixtures, right, Anthony Elanga, for me, I would just avoid. Like, in terms of starts for like the next 2 games, game week 4 and game week 5, yeah, he probably starts those games. But after that, I think it's all up in the air, man. I think there could be possible rotation, as I said, because of the Champions League. So, yeah, that is my personal opinion. And, yeah, let me know what you guys do think of that. But we also do have Xavi Simons. He is coming in at the price of 7 million, and he is a new signing for Spurs. And I think Spurs have great fixtures long term. Really nice fixtures. So I do think, right, Spurs have bought Xavi Simons to start. That is my honest opinion, right? He is sort of a number 10, and Spurs need the number 10, right? So that's where Xavi Simons is going to play. Even with Champions League now coming into play, I do think Xavi Simons will be a good pick for minutes. I really do, because with Maddison injured, with Kulusevski injured, Spurs don't really have that natural number 10, and Xavi Simons is that. So for me, I think he's a great pick, and as I said, when you look at the long-term fixtures, I think he could actually be a solid option at 7 million. And I think, you know, West Ham away is not bad. Brighton away is not bad either. Then Wolves at home, Leeds away, Villa at home, Everton away. I think these fixtures from game week 4 to game week 9 is looking quite tasty, if I'm being totally honest with you guys. And I think Xavi Simons, this new sort of signing for Spurs, will bolster their attack a lot, but I think we can trust and rely on him for minutes. So that's why I do quite like him as a pick. And he's a decent player, man. You know, he got 10 goals and 7 assists last season in the Bundesliga. So I do think, you know, there is some serious value there, and at the price of 7 million, could be a potential replacement. Obviously, it's a little bit of a risk because he's a new signing to the league. We don't know if he might take time to adjust. I mean, we've seen, you know, Florian Wirtz come from the Bundesliga and struggle so far in the Premier League. I mean, that could be the same for Xavi Simons, but there is potential there because I think the fixtures, as I said, from game week 4 to game week 9 for Spurs are really, really good. So there is potential there. If you are looking for like maybe a differential or a rogue pick, maybe you want to do something different and take a gamble on a player, I think, yeah, Xavi Simons could be a decent differential. But yeah, these are definitely some of my favourite options. I'd love to know what you guys think. Alright, so next up, I wanted to speak on Ollie Watkins, Morgan Rogers and Chris Wood, because I think a lot of FPL managers have become really frustrated with these three players. I mean, as you guys can see, Watkins has been transferred out by 248,000 FPL managers. Morgan Rogers, at the time of recording, has been transferred out by 93,000 FPL managers. And at the time of recording, Chris Wood has been transferred out by 302,000 FPL managers. So frustrations are growing with these three players, but honestly, I'm here to tell you that I still think we should be looking to keep these players. I just honestly think, right, getting rid of players before they have such good fixtures is not necessarily a good idea, because I am a firm believer of fixtures build form, right? That's what I believe. Now, you might disagree. You might be someone who likes to take form into consideration a lot more, and I completely understand that. That's a valid point to make. But I am also someone that does believe that fixtures do build form, right? And Aston Villa has some good fixtures coming up. Chris Wood has some good fixtures coming up, right? Of course, game week 4 has got Arsenal at home. That's not great. But after that, Chris Wood has got Burnley away and Sunderland at home, right? These are the kind of games that you want your strikers, your number 9s to play in. These are the kind of games where you expect your strikers to score goals in. And Chris Wood, to be fair to him, right, unlike Morgan Rogers, unlike Ollie Watkins, he's already scored 2 goals so far in the Premier League this season, right? So I do think there is still a good chance that Chris Wood can return in these upcoming games, and I certainly wouldn't be looking to get rid of him. I just wouldn't, right? I can't understand transferring a player out before they play Burnley away and Sunderland at home. That's my personal opinion. And the same sort of thing goes for Morgan Rogers and Ollie Watkins. I know they've been stinking up the place week in, week out. It's been a poor start from Aston Villa. 0 goals from Aston Villa in the opening 3 games. It's been horrendous. I understand that. The form right now is not there for Aston Villa. However, their upcoming fixtures are looking really, really good at the moment. They've got Everton away in game week 4. But to be honest with you guys, Everton have been a really poor defence so far this season, and they haven't been as strong as you may think, right? They have conceded a lot of chances, and as you guys can see, when you look at the expected goals conceded table, right, they have been one of the worst defences so far in the Premier League. Only Burnley and Wolves have been worse than Everton. As you guys can see, Burnley have racked up an expected goals conceded of 6.72, and then Wolves have racked up an expected goals conceded of 5.69, and then in third place behind Burnley and Wolves is Everton with 5.67 expected goals conceded. So their defence can be got at, right? Their defence can be got at. And of course, after the Everton game for Aston Villa is Sunderland away, and then Fulham at home, and then after the Fulham game is then Burnley at home. At the moment, these are some of the best fixtures that you can get in the league, which is why, again, I am of the opinion that keeping Rogers, keeping Ollie Watkins could just be the right play, because ultimately I do believe, right, that Ollie Watkins isn't just not going to score forever, right? He is a Premier League proven player. We've seen him score goals in the Premier League year in, year out, season in, season out, right? So the proof is in the pudding with a player like Ollie Watkins. And I believe with these easier fixtures, we can finally see him score some goals. That is my opinion. And the same sort of goes for Morgan Rogers. You know, obviously he's been in the Premier League a lot less longer than Ollie Watkins. But I think last season he was really, really good. And I just think Aston Villa won't be this bad forever. Let me know what you guys do think of that. I would love to know what you guys think. You guys probably will disagree with what I'm saying here, which is fair enough. I do understand that at the end of the day, they've been underperforming massively. So if you are frustrated and you do want to remove them, that's completely valid. All right, so let's have a look at what we've learned so far. And essentially what this is just looking at some key underlying data from game weeks 1 to 3. And again, looking at sort of what we've learned so far. And what I want to speak about is defensive contributions, right? Because as you guys can see, this is so far the players that have racked up the most defensive contribution points in the opening 3 games. And as you can see, leading the way is actually Senesi of Bournemouth, Tarkowski of Everton, and Van den Berg of Brentford. So it does look like at 4.6 million and 4.5 million, Senesi and Van den Berg could look to offer some serious value. What I would say is though, I would probably prefer Senesi because I think overall Bournemouth look like a better team and a better defence compared to Brentford. I do wonder as well if Brentford could sort of be a team that pick up relatively consistent clean sheets. I'm not too sure. Whereas I think Bournemouth could actually be a team that do pick up quite a few clean sheets, as I really just do rate Iriola as a manager. So that is definitely something that is very interesting. Of course, Tarkowski is also one that we expected to be there sort of before the season even started, right? Because when defensive contributions got released and we all checked the previous season's data for defensive contributions, Tarkowski was the player with the most defensive contribution points, and right now he is maintaining that standard that he set. So at 5.5 million, he looks like he could be a consistent pick if you wanted like a long-term set and forget defender option. So yeah, definitely is interesting. What I will say as well, at 4.5 million is Anderson seems to be racking up quite a few defensive contributions. You've got Bruno Fernandes up there as well, coming in at a price of 9 million. What I find interesting though is Ekdal. Ekdal, I don't know if I pronounced that wrong, my bad if I did, but Ekdal of Burnley, a 4 million defender, right? He is the only 4 million defender sort of on this list of defensive contribution points, and he's got 4 defensive contribution points so far. So what I would say is maybe if you're on wildcard this week and you need a 4 million defender, he could potentially be the one to go for over someone like Esteve, for example. A lot of people are on Esteve, but Ekdal looks like he could be the better option at the moment. I actually do quite like the Leeds defence though, in terms of clean sheets, because so far this season they've already got 2 clean sheets. If you're looking for a defender that can maybe rack up defensive contribution points, then Ekdal of Burnley could be someone to look at, which is pretty interesting. And lastly, I want to speak about Lacroix, Van Dijk and Tosin. But firstly, let's speak about Lacroix, because I think at the price of 5 million, he is probably my favourite defender at that price point. As you guys can see, he's already racked up 4 defensive contribution points. But what I like about Lacroix, right, in the opening 3 games, in 2 of those games, he's obviously racked up defensive contribution points. But what I like about him is that he is playing for a team that is also really good for clean sheets as well. So I do think at the price of 5 million, again, when you talk about a long-term set and forget option, Lacroix could be that player that not only gives you clean sheets, but also defensive contributions points as well. And I think he could just tick along really, really nicely. So definitely someone to keep an eye on. I think Lacroix at 5 million could be really, really good. And arguably better than Munoz, right? When you factor in price as well, arguably he could be a better FPL pick than Munoz. Now, we also do have Van Dijk at the price of 6 million. He's actually the only 6 million defender here, which is pretty interesting. And I think he is probably the best 6 million defender for defensive contributions. It's looking like he's a lot better than the Arsenal defenders like, you know, Gabriel and Saliba for defensive contributions, for example, which I like. Of course, you've also got like Cucurella, for example, at 6 million. Obviously, Van Dijk is probably better than Cucurella for defensive contributions, but Cucurella does also offer attacking threat as well. But I would probably say, right, if I had to pick between maybe Van Dijk and a Gabriel, I might actually lean towards Van Dijk, because I still think Liverpool's clean sheet odds are still, you know, relatively good. Probably not as good as Arsenal's, but it's still good enough to the point where, you know, Van Dijk could be a better option over someone like Gabriel. And also, of course, he's got the set piece threat as well. So it is pretty interesting that Van Dijk is the only 6 million defender here on this list for the defensive contributions. But yeah, I think Van Dijk, of course, is a good option. And, you know, game week 4 is a good entry point as well, with Liverpool playing against Burnley away and Everton at home in the next couple of games. But, of course, with a player like Van Dijk, I feel like if you go for him now, he is just a simple set and forget option. You wouldn't really remove him. Look, we also do have a Tosin coming at the price of 4.5 million. And I actually do think now that Chelsea haven't signed another centre-back, and now that the transfer window is closed, I think at 4.5 million, Tosin could be an interesting one. He's obviously only racked up 2 defensive contribution points. However, he has played a game less, right, than most of these players, right? He didn't play in game week 1. So in 2 games, he's racked up defensive contributions in one of those games. But also, he actually racked up 9 defensive contributions in the game against West Ham. So he was 1 short of getting those defensive contribution points. So it does look like Tosin is a good FPL pick for defensive contributions, and at the price of 4.5 million, playing in a Chelsea team, I do think he could offer some serious value. So yeah, he is definitely someone to consider. I've actually got him in my own team, and I'm actually quite happy I did start off with Tosin, because as I said, you can see he looks quite good and quite consistent for those defensive contributions, and Chelsea are a relatively good defence, right? So yeah, I think the clean sheet potential is there, but also the defensive contribution potential is there. In terms of rotation, I don't think rotation is going to be much of an issue, because with the injury that Colwill has, and sort of the lack of options that Maresca has to play that specific role in that sort of central centre-back role that he wants, I think Tosin will be good for starts. So yeah, definitely someone to consider. And again, if you are on wildcard, I think Tosin could be a really good option. So now let's have a look at the table for expected goals from open play. And as you guys can see, we've got Man City, Manchester United and Bournemouth sitting in the top 3 teams for expected goals from open play. I think Man City being ranked so high just further sort of highlights how good of a pick Erling Haaland really is, especially as, you know, he has been the player that has got most of the big chances for Manchester City. So yeah, I think Erling Haaland, I like him as a pick. I think he's absolutely fantastic. Also, Manchester United in at 2nd place. I think a lot of people might find that surprising, but honestly, as I said, man, we have been a team that's created quite a lot of chances, and it also just does sort of, again, further emphasize, to me anyway, that, you know, Matheus Cunha and Brandon Mbeumo could be some really good options this season. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on to see if we can maintain this standard of creating chances from open play. But yeah, certainly is interesting. And then Bournemouth in at 3rd place as well. Again, further emphasizes how good you know, Semenyo could be, how good even Nilsson could be. So again, really interesting. And Brighton for me is actually a surprise. They've actually done pretty good in terms of their expected goals from open play. Again, in terms of who's going to start for Brighton, is Danny Welbeck going to be a consistent starter? I'm not too sure. Is it going to be Rutter in that number 9? I'm not too sure. So I think those picks right now we should probably avoid. But maybe someone like Matoma, who's more of a consistent starter in the Brighton attack, could potentially be a decent option at some point down the line. And then Chelsea, of course, have racked up a decent amount of expected goals from open play. You know, João Pedro, I think, has been at the centre of that. He's looked so good. I think Estevao as well is someone that has actually racked up quite a few chances for Chelsea, so definitely someone to keep an eye on, especially if he can be a consistent starter. But for me, mainly when I look at the Chelsea attack, I think João Pedro is just the one to go for, and of course Cole Palmer if he is fit to play. Now, one thing that's quite interesting is actually Arsenal. You know, Arsenal are really low for expected goals from open play, and this is pretty interesting because I did not expect this, right? Especially with the fact that, you know, they beat Leeds 5-0. But then again, when I do actually think about it more and more, it does kind of make sense. When you look at the Manchester United game, from open play, they didn't do anything. Yes, they beat us 1-0, but that goal came from a set piece, right? From open play, Arsenal didn't do anything against Manchester United. They didn't really create any good goal scoring opportunities. Of course, against Leeds, again, most of their goals, to be fair, came from set pieces. So yes, even though they did win 5-0, they got a penalty from Gyökeres. Timber scored 2 goals from set pieces, and then Gyökeres, of course, scored a goal from open play, and Saka scored a goal from open play. But again, 3 of their 5 goals came from set pieces, and then obviously against Liverpool, they failed to really create any great chances from open play. So it actually does make sense. When I'm thinking about it now, it does make sense. So is that something that we could sort of look at as quite concerning? Maybe Gyökeres isn't as good as a pick as people think. I mean, I personally think that Gyökeres will be a good FPL pick, but maybe I need to reconsider that. I'm not too sure. I'm not really showing this table to sort of paint narrative to you guys. I'm just showing this table for you to maybe take this information in and build your opinion based off this information. But it certainly is interesting to see Arsenal pretty much rock bottom for expected goals from open play, because I'm of the opinion, to be fair, that Gyökeres from this point onwards, moving forward, looking at the fixtures that Arsenal have, is actually going to be a good pick. That's what I personally think. But it does seem right now Arsenal are struggling to create chances. What I will say is, to be fair to them, their fixtures have been quite tough. Liverpool away, United away is pretty tough, to be fair. But even against Leeds from open play, they didn't really do too much. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on if this is something that carries on throughout the season, maybe Gyökeres might prove to not be worth the 9 million. Who knows? But again, I'm not here to paint narratives. I'm just here to present the information to you guys. But it certainly is interesting to see this table. But with that being said, guys, that is going to be it for today's transfer talk video. I feel like we've covered a lot, so hopefully you guys did enjoy it. If you did, smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. But thank you so much for the amazing support on the channel recently, guys. Honestly, I do appreciate it a lot. It really does mean a lot to me. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Smash a like I said, and yeah, it's been your boy FPL Ryan, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. But until then, I'm out. Peace.